of network and collaboration, because when we are called for summit or events that have to do with youth empowerment, they get to take the opportunity very, very late to answer to the call that I come again to my topic when I was speaking about women. They take time to answer to that call and grab the opportunities. So we also need to have more showcasing more of success stories as well of youth entrepreneurs in terms of to advance and give knowledge to other youth entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. And I think what I hear, the themes that you're really talking about, that I'm hearing from you is that usually when we're in spaces like these, you find the older generation taking up the opportunities that come. And I must say, I mean, you look at today, it's a youth panel, right? Youth panel, 60% of the African population, it's young people. But here we are speaking last. Here we are speaking last. So just to reiterate your point, I'm just going to hand over to Ntate Katlego. Ntate Katlego, you're going to be talking about advocacy and amplifying the voices and concerns of young farmers, promoting their interests and influencing policy decisions. And really what I'd like you to do is really look at the practical aspect of it. Like we spoke earlier off stage, that there are really some practical things that we need to start thinking about and not just philosophize, because we have a bank of knowledge. However, nothing is cascading down. We're not seeing anything practically grassroots levels. Please take it away.
Thank you. Moderator. Let me start by introducing myself first, because they say my profile didn't do justice on me. My name is Katlego Khupotse. I'm the Afasa Youth Chairperson in the Gauteng Province, which is African Farmers Association of South Africa. And I'm advocating for young farmers who need opportunities, who need information in terms of the agricultural sector and the different commodities within the African continent. And I also make sure that I call it bulldozing the government to support our young farmers in terms of farmer support and opportunities. And I'm also an ecosystem award winner in Africa under African Ecosystem Startup Building Summit, ASEP, and I won the award twice, 2022 and this year also. So there was no competition. There was no competition because we as African young people, we are intelligent. We as African young people, we are knowledgeable and we are innovative. But what worries me is that African people are shying away from their indigenous knowledge systems. I'm an indigenous knowledge promoter who makes sure that when I do my agricultural practices, I practice agriculture in an indigenous way. Because my grandparents taught me that the indigenous way of knowing works. Because when I advocate, that's me, that's what I do. When I advocate, I tell young people, stop complaining, prove yourself who you are, what can you do with your hands? Before you start complaining to the government, to other investors, and look at yourself first as an African child. In Swahili they say, Mukachicho wa mukwero, meaning I'm the son of the soil. So I was saying lately that, Mama Cindy, you know, I won't call you dog. You created me. You created this young lion from the YAT, which is Youth in Agriculture and Rural Development of this country. When she founded the organization, I was the first candidate to participate at YAT. And even today, I'm still advocating for young farmers in the country. And I'm so humbled to be sitting here today addressing you how to take Africa forward and how to build the Africa that we want as young people of this African continent. African young people know how to farm. they don't need to be taught how to farm. They need support. And they need continuous mentorship. They need land where they can show that we are capable in terms of farming and making sure that all the commodities, being livestock, being vegetable production, being grain, being the new commodity that is trending now, which is cannabis and hemp. I'm one of the champions who's doing that in Africa. And I've got an offtake agreement that need young people who grow hemp for industrial purposes to supply hemp fiber, hemp seed, hemp stock for different things. Car body parts, textile for clothing, hemp seed oil for food and protein. And what is amazing is that when we go around South Africa meeting with young farmers, they are eager to grow the miracle plant for industrial purposes, not for recreational use. The recreational part is the last part of, enjoying, the kana when we socialize and have these creative, crazy minds that we have to say we think we're crazy, we can change the world. Yes, we are. As young African people, we are so intelligent, but we're running away from our indigenous knowledge systems. If we can go back a bit and think how we used to do farming without any problems, we used to have original genetics of seeds, but currently now we're doing GMO seeds that we don't even know where they come from. There's a Goa that we don't even want to embrace. But Africans are failing to embrace the African paradigm shift to say, we can do it. And we can make rand circulate in Africa. We can, create our own African bank in a cooperative model that can support youth, women in the agricultural sector. And I'm also participating in the World Food Farmers Organization, which is WFO. I've been a candidate since 2020, and I graduated in 2023. And I'm still, engaging in terms of policy development, how young people must be included in policy development.
Ntate Katlego, I'd like to stop you just a little bit.
Thank you.
Is that still the intro?
No,
I just
that's
need to
fine.
understand.
I
just need us to understand. Have we started dealing with the topic, or is that still the introduction?
I introduced myself at the same time, moving to the topic.
We're moving to the topic. All right,
Yes,
wonderful.
Not to waste time, because
All right.
I have a lot to say. And I have to,
We're trying to manage that.
Yes, I have a lot to say in terms of advocating for young farmers in the African continent. And this African Continental Free Trade Agreement,
Yes.
it's null and void if we don't have African products. What are we selling? What are we trading amongst ourselves in Africa? So I'm glad, Mama Cindy, take a pledge to say, I want to see a new Africa that is beautiful, that is working amongst themselves, and we need young people to embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And the themes that I'm picking up from what you're saying is that we need to actually own the entire value chain. We need to own the entire ecosystem. That's what I'm hearing. Just to take us now into the capacity building, providing training, mentorship, skills development opportunities for young farmers. And Themba, I'm really calling you by your African name, you see, not Kelvin, Themba. But Themba, I really want you to tell us, right, as young people, do we still need more training? Have we been overcapacitated? And how do we ensure that all that is being invested in us, we are actually able to leverage it into the spaces that we're in right now, speaking particularly into this topic?
No, thank you so much. Am I audible? All right.
Yes, you are.
No, thank you so much. Before I start, I'd like to comment on both my panel members.
Please do.
With regards to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, I run the Africa Free Trade Advisory, and our objective is to increase inter-Africa trade. And we have had a number of missions. I think last year we went to over 10 African countries to create partnerships because, well, we don't want to wait for governments to create partnerships for us. We need to go out, more especially South Africans. South Africans have this tendency, I think South Africa's too nice. We don't want to travel to other African countries, but other African countries are here.
Africa Light.
And we were trying to change that narrative. I mean, we went to even Egypt, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Ghana, Mozambique, Botswana, Lesotho, of course, been here. But what we wanted to explore was we hear a lot about there is opportunities in Africa. There's opportunities outside South Africa. There's this Africa Continental Free Trade Area that has been signed by all member states of the African Union. How do we leverage that? And what we found out in our due diligence trip, in our fact-finding mission, is that we are very privileged to be in South Africa because South Africa is one of the most industrialized countries in Africa. And when we went to Ethiopia, we found out 90% of the, let's say, toilet papers, they only have 2 factories, and one is always in care maintenance because it can't even meet the demand of that country. They are 2 times our population, they're about 120 million. We are 60 million. And in South Africa, we have so many factories. The simple things that South Africans, we need to take advantage of is Africa is open for business. And in terms of industrialization, in terms of trade, it's ripe. If we as South Africans don't take advantage of this continental trade agreement, and we just talk about it, and we don't travel Africa, we will come to a point where we say that the Chinese are taking over. But we are Africans, and Africa is ready for us. And we are not getting out of our own comfort zone and invest in other African countries. That's one, on opportunities that lie in Africa.
Yes.
In terms of capacity building and mentorship, one thing that, as an entrepreneur, I think is missing. I think we have so much. Like, we're living in the digital era where there's nothing. If you know nothing, you can literally go into your phone, ChatGPT it, and you will know it. So I think that mindset to wait for information to be fed to you, it should be a mindset of yesterday. As young people, we should be at the forefront of any industry because we have access. I mean, we're living in one of the best generation where there's nothing that you say you don't know. Because what you identify as you don't know, you can know in a matter of seconds. Because information is there. I do believe in mentorship. Because, but access to information, that's not something that we should be talking about. I think we are the youth that said, oh no, they don't tell us, or they don't share with us. And that nonsense needs to stop. Because we live in the information era.
Yeah.
We live in ChatGPT, we live in Google. I mean, this event is advertised on social media. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. If you don't know, it's because you don't want to know. End of story. This pushing the responsibility to government and other private sector companies to say they don't share information with us, that needs to stop. It's a lazy mentality. And this coming from a youth. I am passionate about Africa, and I have different mentors all over Africa as well. I'm privileged to be part of. I'm on the board. That's one Investor of Technology.
Wonderful.
I was actually elected last year in November to be chairperson of the Faculty of Management Science. And it is now, and I'm on the board of an APC company, which is an energy company. And 2 weeks ago at Limpopo, through this NMG company, we invested 10 billion rands to build 2 solar farms, one in Zanini and one in Guyane. And how did I, as a young person, get to be in those spaces? It is through platforms such as this, and networking, and meeting with the right people, and not taking yourself that you are a young person, you basically disqualify yourself to engage in topics of investment or topics of trade. So I would like to encourage young people that one, it's good to want a mentor, but first you need to mentor yourself.
True.
Because then if you can't self-talk yourself to say that I am worthy of being a millionaire, or I'm worthy of being in business, or I'm worthy of trading, or I'm worthy of this, the next person is not going to do you justice. You're actually going to waste the next person's time because you yourself, you're not ready. There is a Chinese proverb that says that when the student is ready, the master will appear.
Yeah.
Only when you are ready to take over Africa or to take over anything, then the help that you need will automatically come to you. And moderator, as I sit down, I think we'll proceed.
As you've been sitting, sir. All right, thank you very much for that. And I think the themes that are really coming through strongly is no one's coming to save us.
No.
Nobody is coming to save us. Unless we make the decisions and we start doing the work, nobody's coming to save us. I am going to close this panel, but before I do, I'd like the speakers to just respond to one more question, which unfortunately one of our speakers was unable to answer. And really, that question is, just give me 2 minutes. I'll get to it. All right, it says here, how can business associations be more inclusive in terms of representing the interests of youth in supporting business linkages? And I'm going to give each speaker just 2 minutes to respond to that. We will be closing this panel discussion after that. We will not be opening up for questions. And I can see that the MC is so happy. Program director is so happy with me. All right, so the question again is, how can business associations be more inclusive in terms of representing the interests of youth in supporting business linkages? 2 minutes for each speaker, please. And I'd like to start on the far end and close it off on this side.
No, thank you so much. I think with regards to you business associations or chambers.
Yes, business associations.
Okay. I'm not the biggest fan of chambers because I find them to be quite elite organizations. I mean, they can only carry like a few members. I mean, if I can ask now, who's a member of any business chamber in the house? There's 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. Yes. So what I find many times with chambers of commerce is that you have members, and that's about it. But the majority of business community are not necessarily, especially SMEs, they're not necessarily part of those. And maybe they disqualify themselves. I don't know the reasons why they're not part of these chambers. But what I think should assist SMEs is it's a very difficult one. Well, let me speak about something that I think is of interest.
Yes.
I think technology transfer, right? You spoke about industrialization. That's what I wanted to speak about earlier. Technology transfer. I think technology transfers are very important, and I think we're sleeping on the job as young people when it comes to that. There's a number of factories that are closing down, and or they have been in South Africa because to a certain extent we're industrialization instead of industrialization. There's a number of skills and there's a number of technologies that are available in South Africa that as a young person you can look and adopt that or speak to that company and work with them as a partner, I can. Okay, I'm speaking so much. Let me focus because one thing I want to say is that I'm passionate about, and I wanted to speak on your is that out of the 55 member states of the African Union, about 38 of them are facing food insecurity. And in the next pandemic, if we are to have a pandemic and we close borders, meaning 38 African countries will go hungry because we will not be trading. And the borders will be closed. And this is, I like my brother here for food. So young people need to look at opportunities within agriculture and agro-processing. And then especially within agro-processing, look at companies that are doing it and engage with them. Go to Zimbabwe, go to Lesotho, speak to authorities, and look at setting up a plant there. And there's a number of support all over Africa. I know that Zimbabwe spends about
Themba, I'm not silencing you.
I
I'm
know
not
Zimbabwe
silencing you,
spends
but
3
2
billion,
minutes.
3 billion importing food that they could be producing. Nigeria spends about 5 billion USD importing food that they could be producing. And these are opportunities that it's as much as a problem, but it's an opportunity for us young people to tap into those areas and speak to my brother here to assist us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Themba. If you do want to engage with Themba, he is available on LinkedIn. I searched him, I found him. So if you want to engage with him, he is definitely available on LinkedIn. Abut Katlego.
Thank you, moderator. In terms of associations and chambers and incubation programs, I would say there's quite a number of amazing work that has been done. I can mention one. We are here, the Innovation Hub, and the Innovation Hub is making sure that young people who need support in terms of, to be ready to access the market with the products that, will entice the market, they support. And I'm one of the products of Innovation Hub. I'm being innovated here also.
Wonderful.
Yes, into bioscience and product development. Hence, you saw a table outside, Care Cosmetics and Botlalebara Mutla Farms on hemp and cannabis. We are supported by the Innovation Hub. And there's also other incubation programs that young people can visit. Your CEDA, now it's been joined with CIFA called CIFDA, I think. Yes, so they offer support and also non-financial support and financial support. And again, we've got African programs that young people can also tap into that accelerates young people to be ready to participate in the business context and to be the suppliers in the value chain. And lastly, I would moderate, I would give this to, if there's someone who's coming from a learning institution in the room. In future, young people, we know that learning institutions, you offer us good acceleration programs and incubation programs that are paid by government. And young people don't know about that. All African universities, you have these programs that can accelerate young people. So in future, I want to see learning institutions being part of this African Investment Summit so that they can share how can they empower young people in this African continent.
Thank you. Thank you, Abut Katlego. Yes, ma'am.
In terms of association, I understand that in each and every country there is a Ministry of SMEs. We have one in Zimbabwe, and we also have the Ministry of Trade, and the minister is a young man, is a youth, Honorable Mr. Ndlovu. We have the Minister of ICT, she's a young woman, Honorable Mavetera. We have the Minister of Youth, he's a youth also, Honorable Tinoma Chakaire. And those ministries, government ministries in Zimbabwe have worked together to open opportunities and association with the youth and youth in business to empower them under the government and the finance of government banner. And I understand that we have Sakunda, which is a big company, but 80% of their workers are youth. from the grassroots and from rural areas. We have an international company called Better Brands. Besides them, empowering young youth from artisanal mining, jewelries. They've also have an international sports group or football association, which is also empowering youth. And my brother here was speaking of Zimbabwe having to use 3 billion in buying foods. Let me update you on the current, under the leadership of President Idi Mnangagwa, we have had Buy Zimbabwe, where we are promoting local foods. We have seen Champion Foods that was launched by His Excellency this year, and we are doing our own milling meal, our own flour, our own butter, all the things that you may need in terms of food. So maybe if we're using 3 billion, we have minus 2.5 billion. We are no longer, they are no longer benefiting our money. So I'm not going to say what can these chambers or the government do to linkage with the SMEs. I'm going to ask, what can the SMEs do to link with these chambers, these companies, these organizations that can promote their work? Because I am a youth and I'm the one that have to benefit from Innovation Hub, not Innovation Hub to benefit from me. So what should I do to link myself to them? What should I do to link myself to somebody that is bulldozing the government? For me to be a great farmer, for me to be a great agronomist, I have to look for Tate Katlego. I have to link with him myself. I have to benefit from his knowledge, learn from him, work with him to make sure that as SMEs, we are not just a group, we are not just representatives, we are not just motivational speakers, but we are profitable individuals. Thank you.
Not just a pretty face. Not just a pretty face. And as we close our panel, I'd like to leave you with these thoughts. According to the AU Youth Division, which publishes information on youth policies and demographics, often tied to the African Youth Charter, as well as reports and data sets related to Africa's youth employment, education, and poverty, including the World Development Indicators, according to UNICEF, which focuses on youth and children in Africa, covering issues like education, health, and gender disparities, as well as the African Development Bank, which publishes research on Africa's youth demographics and their implications for economic growth and job creation. The definition of youth: the African Union defines youth as individuals aged between the ages of 15 and 35 years. However, for global statistical purposes, the focus often falls on 15 to 24-year-olds. Total youth population as of 2023, approximately 60% of Africa's 1.4 billion people are under the age of 25, making it the youngest continent globally. The median age in Africa is approximately 19.7 years compared to a global median of 30 years. Sub-Saharan Africa as the youngest population, with countries like Niger, Uganda, and Angola, have a median age that is under the age of 16. North Africa has a slightly older demographic, with countries like Egypt and Tunisia having a median age of mid-20s. Now, as you're sitting here, I'd like you to think about programs that you're running within your society, within your spaces, within your communities. How much of the youth are being empowered? How much of the youth are being engaged? And with that, we'd like to thank you very much. Good evening.
Another round of applause. I think we can all learn from the youth something around time management. We love it. Thank you so much to our moderator. She's absolutely awesome. All right. The youth has spoken, do we have our panel ready? The chair for the panel? We've got Mr. Andrew Makenete, agricultural economist. Did I say it correctly?
That's fine.
No, how do I like to say it correctly? Okay. It's who will be the moderator for this session. And may I please ask, sir, that you introduce your panel members to the audience. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand over to the chair. They say you don't delegate upwards, but for closing, I will ask our chairperson to do the closing, and if you will allow me to go off the clock for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over the mic to our economist, and then I'm going to call the chairman of the Africa Tourism Board, and Katleho on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Colleagues, good afternoon. This is typically the graveyard. In fact, it's past the graveyard session. So we're going to make it quick. I have lost most of my original panel members. I think I've only retained Katleho. Very quick introduction. I'm an ex-banker with both commercial banks and the Land Bank. And I've been an agri-entrepreneur basically for the last, my age should give it away, but nearly close to 25, 30 years. Invested in a whole range of different things, everything from export table grapes now to medicinal cannabis, to selling tractors, to doing training in the agriculture sector. So the whole notion of investing in agriculture is something that I have personally been very, very much passionate about. But I think it goes beyond just investing in agriculture. I think in Africa, the message that really needs to resonate with everybody here is that agriculture will always be a growth area. You know, people, talk about all the sex industries, IT, they talk about tourism, they talk about, but people must eat. And if there's anything we have learned in the last 3 years or 4 years ago when COVID hit, everything stopped. But eating. Everybody still had to eat. So the whole notion that you can ever run away from agriculture, and I think from a policy perspective, not just in South Africa, but in Africa, our policymakers have got it all wrong. Your people, fundamentally, to build any economy must start at the ground with the land by making sure that people can firstly feed themselves, but secondly can feed their nations. Because hungry nations are always going to be at war with themselves and with others. So I think the whole notion about investing in agriculture is really what's key. Now, what has happened with agriculture is that there's now basically a fusion of agriculture with all the other industries. We have heard quite a bit of talk today around agro-tourism and tourism in tourism, but using agriculture as your base. Well, yesterday, and Katla will touch on it, I'm sure, later, we're talking about agriculture and its confluence now with pharmacy and medicine. And people actually forget, just about every single pharmaceutical product that we have in the world actually came out of some agricultural natural herb. So when somebody says, oh, take a Panado, well, obviously the key ingredients in that Panado must somebody from some grandmother Kai in Kenya used to give people something, and of course Western science went and looked at it and then decided, no, we're going to patent whatever was in that herb and suddenly going to tell you that it's Panado and it's whatever it may be. So there's a confluence of agriculture and pharmacy. But there's also a confluence of agriculture and energy. And I mean, so how do we ignore the fact that in anything, I mean, in Africa specifically, what is the largest energy source in Africa? Wood. People are telling us also that it's wood. So, and we are saying, well, let's not cut down the forest. But what people don't say is, what is the alternative to wood? Well, there are others. There's now biofuels. There's now bioenergy. People are now talking about using algae to generate electricity or to generate heat. So really all